Video games get a lot of things wrong. But of all the things they surprisingly get right, it's the portrayal of fathers. We've seen ones that are stoic and strong, driven by conviction and shaped by loss. But that's not always the case. Although they're still written well, we've also seen our fair share of bad ones. So let's take a closer look at how fatherhood is represented in video games. Starting with the father who sparked the idea for this video, Kratos. The Kratos we meet in 2018's God of War is very different from the one we've seen in previous installments. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. His journey in the new series starts from a place of mourning, trying to fulfill his late wife's wish of spreading her ashes at the highest peak in all the realms. But things quickly spiral out of control as various gods and monsters interfere with his plan. Now, if that wasn't already enough, he's also given his most dangerous task yet, raising his son Atreus. Kratos appears to be much calmer and more stoic, at least on the surface. He comes off as cold and distant towards Atreus, with very little patience for his shortcomings. But as the story continues, we get a deeper look into his mindset. It becomes clear he's not only battling his own demons, but he's afraid of passing them on to his son. At first he starts off strict, but over time, slowly begins to trust Atreus. This dynamic continues into Ragnarok, where Atreus is older and wiser but still naive to the realities of the world. One of the things I really enjoy about both games is that in most instances, Kratos is actually right. His approach may be harsh, but it comes from a place of wisdom. Take for example when he finally tells Atreus about his divine lineage. Atreus goes from being a timid boy to a cocky, naive one.
I see.
Yeah! We're sick of hearing about little people's little problems! He should know the truth, even if it hurts.
It was needless and unkind.
Truth is more important than kindness.
Your mother would disagree.
She wasn't a god.
It's clear that Atreus is in the wrong, but it's also clear that the way Kratos handled it is partially to blame.
What's the difference?
There are consequences to killing a god!
Why? How do you know? How do you know?
Watch your tone, boy.
Ultimately, it's up to Kratos to help his son realize the error in his ways. Look, it could have been really easy for the writers to make Atreus as the one who's always right. Meanwhile, Kratos is just this big meathead that has to admit his old-fashioned ways are no longer relevant. But that wouldn't have felt real. Time and time again, Atreus learns from his father.
Without you, I got reckless. Overconfident. Made stupid mistakes. I don't know why I thought I could do this alone.
And that's not to say that Kratos is perfect. Easily the best part about his portrayal as a father is that he also learns so much from his son. Empathy and trust doesn't come naturally to him, but with a little help from others, he begins to value his son's strengths, like his curiosity and his ability to see the good in others.
Unforgiving.
Is that why you didn't train me like one? Did you not think I could handle it?
I did not think you should have had to.
In Ragnarok, Kratos grows even further, allowing his son to actually lead them on adventures while he watches from the back seat.
You have grown into a warrior, worthy of your namesake.
Ultimately, Kratos goes from viewing his son as a burden to be cared for to a partner that fights alongside him. Now contrast that with another father from a beloved franchise, one who refused to grow when the situation demanded it. Haytham Kenway, the father of Assassin's Creed 3's protagonist Connor, is one of the most complex characters in the series. He's a powerful leader of the Templars, and his dedication to his ideology is clear from the start. However, after getting freaky in a cave, a few days, he unknowingly contributes to the birth of his son Connor. Unfortunately for Haytham, he doesn't find out about Connor until he's already an adult, and it's clear that he doesn't really care about him until he starts interfering with his plans.
Father. Connor, any last words?
Connor resents Haytham for the damage he's done and blames him for the death of his mother. Haytham initially tries to get Connor to join his side, but when he refuses, it becomes clear that this is a deal breaker he won't be able to look past. I mean, even in their first interaction, Haytham plainly states that he has no problem killing Connor if he gets in the way of the Templars' mission.
I can kill you now, if you prefer. Excellent. Shall we be off?
Ultimately, this pits father against son, resulting in a tragic ending to their relationship. It didn't have to be this way. Haytham was only willing to make amends if they were on his terms. That's the big difference between him and Kratos. It's the conditional acceptance that highlights his flaws as a father.
Go catch up with the rest of Church's men. Infiltrate that camp of theirs and see what you can discover. Or what about you? Never you mind. Just do as I ask.
He's dedicated to his purpose, which is understandable. In fact, without any context, it's actually commendable. It makes him a good Templar. But when it comes at the sacrifice of his relationship with his son, what does it say about him as a father? Sometimes a father figure doesn't need to be biological. In Telltale's The Walking Dead, Lee Everett started out as a convicted criminal on his way to prison when the zombie outbreak hits. After a car crash frees him, he meets Clementine, an 8-year-old girl hiding in her treehouse, patiently waiting for her parents who will never come home. Lee decides to take her with him, becoming her guardian and emotional anchor in this apocalyptic world. But as their journey progresses, Lee becomes more than her guardian. He becomes her father figure. Even though this is a Telltale game where the player can make a wide variety of narrative choices, including the option to let Clementine eat human flesh.
Lee, what's wrong? You look pale. Sit down, your supper's getting cold.
Lee's role remains constant. He does his best to expose her to the horrors of the world they live in, while at the same time refraining from exposing her to unnecessary trauma. It's impressive given the fact that he's not a father. He doesn't have to do anything for this girl. If anything, she's more of a hindrance than an asset when it comes to surviving the world of The Walking Dead. But easily the biggest act of selflessness is in the final scene of the game. When Lee knows he's about to die, the player is given a choice. Let Clem shoot Lee, or leave him to turn. He doesn't make things harder than they need to be, and never makes his demise about himself. Even with his final words, he continues to give her advice and words of encouragement to survive.
That don't mean it, Krista. They're probably looking for us right now. Stay on high ground. Don't go too far.
Regardless of the choice, Lee understands that he has to let Clem go. And it's worth mentioning that he doesn't even end his own life, because that would only traumatize her. But by giving her the option, it helps prepare her for all the other difficult decisions she'll need to make if she wants to survive. Compare that to another father figure from a post-apocalyptic world, Joel. After losing his daughter at the beginning of the outbreak, Joel's whole world is shattered. Honestly, this scene is one of the hardest ones to watch in all of gaming.
Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby.
He goes on to live the next 20 years as a hardened man, one willing to do whatever it takes to survive. But all of that changes when he meets Ellie, a teenage girl who might hold the cure to the infection. At first he treats her like another job, like cargo that he needs to get rid of in order to go about his life. But as their journey continues, they start to form a bond, and he begins to take on a similar role to Lee. He guides Ellie, teaches her about how to survive in the real world, and most importantly, does everything in his power to keep her safe.
Holy shit. Are we gonna help him?
Put your seatbelt on, Ellie.
Well, what about the guy?
He ain't even hurt.
But all that comes to a halt with the final choice in the game. Save Ellie's life, or allow her to die for a chance at a cure. By now I'm sure you're all familiar with his decision.
You just come after her.
He decides to save Ellie not out of logic or fear for her life, but because he can't stand to lose another daughter. It's a sentiment I'm sure a lot of fathers would share, the idea of dooming the rest of the world if it meant saving their daughter. What's great about Joel and Lee is that they're both father figures not from blood, but circumstance. Both are given impossible tasks, but in spite of that, both characters do their best to take care of their figurative daughter. Lee shows us that fathers are selfless, willing to go to extreme measures to keep their children safe. Joel shows us that fathers are selfish, willing to keep their children safe at the cost of the world around them. Both perspectives feel so authentic and human, which is why the ending of both stories resonates so deeply with gamers. It's jarring to remember that our fathers had full lives before we ever existed. In Red Dead Redemption, John Marston is a man trying to escape a life of violence and bloodshed. He carries guilt and regret, but above all else, he carries a conviction to be better for the sake of his family. Once a ruthless outlaw riding with Dutch's gang, John saw firsthand how quickly a violent life can turn to chaos. And after barely getting out alive, he's finally given a chance at redemption. He tracks down his old gang members in exchange for his family's safety. He doesn't want to step back into this world, but he does it in order to protect his wife Abigail and his son Jack. John's story stands out because he genuinely tries. He takes a stab at the ranch life and plays the role of a supportive father to his family. He actually craves that boring, quiet life.
Don't mention it, old man. You kill peasants, you become a peasant. I never aspired to be anything more.
But despite his best efforts, his journey is defined by his tragic yet noble ending, the ultimate sacrifice. When betrayed by the government, he accepts his fate and goes all out just to buy his family a little bit more time. I think the worst part about John's story is that although he dies with honor, his story is a reminder that the sins of the father always fall upon the son. Even though he does everything in his power to keep his family out of harm's way, his son Jack ultimately follows in his father's footsteps. Michael DeSanta, on the other hand, is every dude's worst nightmare. I mean, the house in the hills is nice and the money too, but his relationship with the rest of his family is an absolute mess. From a wife who entertains other men and doesn't respect him, to a low-life son that also doesn't respect him, to an attention-starved daughter who, you guessed it, also doesn't respect him. Michael's story is different from John's in that Michael actually made it. He's got the mansion, the cars, basically everything you could ask for. Everything except a loving family. Instead, his family reminds him of his own shortcomings. Take Jimmy, for example, who has his fair share of issues.
You like that, don't you, huh? Take it all.
Whenever Michael tries to encourage him to become someone respectable, Jimmy's quick to point out his hypocrisy given his father's criminal past. It's important to mention that although his family is quick to point out his flawed past, they don't actually hate him for it. They hate him because of how absent he's been for all their lives. Michael's clearly dissatisfied with his life. Some would say he's going through some sort of midlife crisis. Deep down, he wants to be a good father, but he clearly hasn't shaken all the baggage from his days as a criminal. It gets even more frustrating for him because this is one of those issues that money can't fix. So instead of growing, he falls victim to a sense of powerlessness and returns to the life of crime that he so desperately tried to run away from. It's an interesting comparison to John Marston. In one instance, you have a father who's trying to leave his past behind, to redeem himself in the hopes for a better future. John actively works to figuratively and literally kill his past, and ends up dying as a redeemed man. On the other hand, Michael wants the respect without doing any of the work. He isn't aware of how his past is holding him back, and so he becomes consumed by it. Like some of the other fathers in this video, their portrayals propose the question, how much of being a father is about protecting your family, and how much of it is about being worthy of them? When writing and recording this video, I kept asking myself, why do these dynamics seem to resonate so much nowadays? Maybe it has to do with how fathers are portrayed in other forms of media, where they're shown as caricatures that are absent, incompetent, or just straight up evil. Maybe it has to do with an aging gaming population. I'm sure some of you watching this right now are fathers, or at a point in your life where fatherhood is just around the corner. Maybe it's the fact that you've gotten older. You've gained perspective about growing up as a man, about what you'd sacrifice everything for. Whatever the reason may be, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. At the end of the day, all this goes to show is the variety and depth a father-child relationship can show when portrayed well in video games. From wisdom to inner demons that need to be conquered, a father-child dynamic is one that will always hit close to home. Were there any dads I missed? Let me know in the comments below. Before you hit the like and subscribe button, make sure to wish your dad, or whatever father figure you may have, a happy Father's Day. With all that said, thanks for watching and stay winning.